you grew up with preacher parents. What was that like?
Well, I mean, as you hear, or as you've heard growing up through life, some that PKs they say are some of the baddest, some of the worst kids, man. And I think because people come to that conclusion is because the restriction that are put on kids on PKs, is having to live up to a certain standard when it comes to being a PK is what that pretty much is. And but other than that, they're great. We're great people, man. We're good folks, and I know I can speak on my behalf, and my siblings that we certainly represent a certain way. And I think because of that as well, when it comes to me singing and performing, I kind of draw back to back into my my family days when we grew up in church.
So you actually started singing in the church?
Yeah, I started singing. Actually, I everything all the instruments I play piano, guitar, and drums. Had it not been for church, I wouldn't have been into it, as much as I am. So everything really started from that foundation.
I mean, being that your parents were in the church so heavily, was there, like a lot of restrictions in terms of, when you were in high school, in terms of dating and kind of like the way you sort of moved?
Oh yeah, you better believe it. I mean, like I mentioned before, the example, had to start with, my parents' family. It had to start with us, and you couldn't date. That wasn't allowed, and certain music you couldn't listen to back in the day. It was pretty much either gospel or Stevie Wonder, maybe, Curtis Mayfield from time to time, Michael Jackson, but you really didn't get a lot of the secular music. Not until I went to high school, and of course, things opened up at that point.
Was there a certain level of rebelling against that type of lifestyle?
Well, I guess you can call it a little bit of that. I think it was more so searching, to see what else was out there, and and I think, but it's good that having parents that gave me that sort of foundation, of understanding what's right and what's wrong, and but on a certain level, because it was to a default, for us, we really had to be really, really strict about certain things, and but it gave me a sense of discipline when it came to even the way I work today.
So if you weren't allowed to date growing up, I mean, at what age did you actually start dating?
Yeah, man, I was 17. I was getting ready to graduate high school, and at that point, the decision making wasn't that good. The experience in dealing with girls, at that point wasn't good. So when I was, I guess, 18, 19 years old, I had my first kid, and in my opinion, I would have waited a little bit longer, So, but I'm very happy with my daughter. Very, very happy I have her.
Interesting. So you had your first child while you were still a teenager yourself?
Yeah, young buck.
How difficult was that?
Well, for me, it wasn't that difficult. It wasn't that difficult. I mean, she grew up with her mother for the most part, in Georgia. I moved to New York when I was 17, and just wanting to be around music, wanting to be around people who were involved in that music thing, and for me, one thing led to another, and it really set off for me. So I really didn't have a restriction, having my daughter 24/7 around me. So I would certainly spend a lot of time and get her when the opportunity allowed for me to have that space. But I think now that she lives with me now. We really have a much tighter bond, and the development and the growth that we're sharing together is really incredible.